All right, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to participate in the first public workshop for the Westport and Dartmouth Route 6 corridor study. We've asked you all here today as Dartmouth residents and stakeholders to present our findings so far and to discuss what issues and opportunities exist on Route 6 within your community. Our main goal of the night is to get your input. My name is Gregory Gurton. I'm a senior transportation planner with SERPED and a co-lead on this study. Today, I'm joined by my fellow presenter, Sarah Brown, another senior transportation planner here at SERPED, and our assistant transportation planning director, Lisa Estrella Pedro. Our agenda for the day is a simple one. We'll go over some details about the study and the study area. Then we'll fill you in on some of the information and data we've collected via our stakeholder meetings and our research. And then the remainder of the meeting will be focused on your vision for Route 6 moving forward. First, some housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the Westport and Dartmouth Route 6 corridor study webpage after the meeting concludes. If you require closed captioning, please click on the red and blue otter.ai button at the top left of your screen. A new window will appear with live closed captioning. We ask that all participants please remain muted and turn off your video until the activity and Q&A portion of the workshop. To participate in the activity portion of the workshop, please select the raise hand function. Find this by clicking on the participants button on the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with a raise hand button at the bottom. The presenters will then call on participants. In the meantime, feel free to type any question or comment into the chat window, and we will address as many of those questions as we can during the Q&A. If you're attending on your phone, you can use *6 to toggle mute and *9 to raise your hand. So, our study area begins at the Westport Fall River City line and ends at Crossroad in Dartmouth. This entire section of Route 6 falls under Massachusetts Department of Transportation, MassDOT, jurisdiction. The primary study elements we're going to be discussing are as follows, or focusing on are as follows. Bicycle and pedestrian safety and access to the corridor, along the corridor, and to the establishments located along the corridor. Safety for all road users along the corridor, in which we'll take a deep dive into the crash data to uncover any and all common locations and themes for crashes within the study area. Transit. Route 6 is frequented by transit riders, and we intend to assess how to best serve that population within the study area. Access. To ensure that all users of the roadway have a safe and pleasant experience along the corridor. And finally, congestion. Where are the choke points? When do they occur? And what are some ways we can mitigate them? This study should be concluded by late spring of next year. But before we go any further, we'd like to learn a couple of things about you all tonight via some interactive poll questions. Let me just pull those up for you all. First, we'd like to know, do you live on Route 6 or in one of the neighborhoods along it? You can select, I live on Route 6, I live in one of the neighborhoods along it, or no, I do not. All right, I think that's everybody's in, there we go. So most folks live in the neighborhoods along it, 67%. And then some people don't live on Route 6 as well. Thank you. Another question here. How often do you typically drive or ride on Route 6 from the Westport Fall River Town Line to Crossroad in Dartmouth? We can select never, once a week, 2 to 3 times per week, 4 to 5 times per week, or more than 5 times per week. All right. Looks like we've got 100% participation on it. There we go. Thank you all. And it's a mixed bag. It's a mix of all of those answers. That's wonderful. And finally, one last poll before we get going. We're curious, Do you ever walk, bike, or take the bus along Route 6? You can choose one or multiple of these options. All right, thank you for that. Another mix. We got 3 walkers, 3 bikers, and a good amount of none of the above. Thank you very much for participating in that. So now here are some key details about the study area. The study area is a total of 7.1 miles in length. There are a total of 9 intersections along the corridor, 4 with traffic lights and 5 with stop signs. Route 6 is classified as an urban minor arterial or a rural major collector, which means that Route 6 is considered a link between freeways and local streets, providing for the efficient collection, distribution, and transition of traffic among freeways, collector streets, local roadways, and property. There are 4 lanes of traffic along the corridor, along with a median separating the eastbound and westbound lanes. Sidewalks along the corridor are inconsistent, and where they do exist, they are mostly in poor condition, with few exceptions, but more on this later. There are no bicycle facilities on Route 6. Although bicyclists are permitted to ride along the corridor, it is generally considered unsafe, considering the high speeds of traffic and the varied widths of shoulder. There are 56 transit stops serviced by Southeastern Regional Transit Authority, SERTA. These stops are nearly all exposed to the elements, with only 1 poorly maintained bus shelter, and some are placed dangerously close to the travel lanes. In August, we conducted stakeholder meetings for each municipality. The primary goal of these stakeholder meetings was to solicit input from town officials, MassDOT representatives, and other public representatives to ensure that their voices were heard early on in the process and to inform or direct some of the focus of our study. To capture stakeholder input, we conducted a SWOT analysis and a crowdsource mapping exercise. I will review some of the highlights of those exercises with you now. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, with strengths and weaknesses referring to the internal environment and opportunities and threats referring to the external environment. Participants provided a range of responses, of which I've summarized on this slide. For strengths, wide lanes can make room for traffic calming measures. Many businesses are located along the corridor. There are development and planning opportunities along the corridor. And the wide shoulders provide good room for bus turnouts. Some weaknesses. It's not enough. There are not enough safe places for pedestrian crossings. Wide lanes are causing faster traffic. There are some lighting issues along the corridor. Median openings create potential conflicts, and there's a lack of bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. Some opportunities: improved bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. There's room for improved landscaping and lighting. There's room for future developments along the corridor, and maybe even the potential for electric vehicle charging stations. Some threats: the wide openings are not safe for all users and create room for conflict. There's mixed public perceptions about bicycle and pedestrian safety, and the current design of Route 6 is in conflict with the use of Route 6. This crowdsource mapping exercise is publicly available for anyone to submit site-specific comments regarding any and all issues or suggestions regarding travel by car, bicycle, foot, transit, or other potential transportation impacts along the corridor. We conducted this exercise with our participating stakeholders and received the most comments on the travel by car and the travel by foot maps, of which I've summarized on the slide. While traveling by car, some of the comments were, the speed limit is too high for this area. Curb cuts and median opening designs are outdated, and it's dangerous to cross Route 6 from one side street to another. As for walking, some comments were, cars are moving too fast for pedestrians to cross safely. We need to continue adding new sidewalks. The current sidewalks are not ADA compliant, and pedestrians need safer places to wait for the bus. We will be revisiting this map later on in the workshop to collect your feedback as well. To ensure that as many folks as possible could learn about the study and our workshops, we reached out to the public in a variety of ways. We established a project webpage for the corridor study, which you can find in the chat. And you can, by visiting the website, you can learn all about the purpose of the study, upcoming events, review current findings, view interactive maps, and participate in surveys. We posted flyers at local businesses along Route 6 and in both the Dartmouth and Westport town halls and local libraries. And lastly, we've also used social media to advertise both the study itself and the public workshops. We do have some early findings that we'd like to share with you. As for the physical layout of the corridor, the travel lanes are average, varying roughly between 11 foot and 12 feet in width, which are appropriate for the corridor's current use given the number of buses and trucks traveling along the corridor. The width of the painted shoulder varies greatly, anywhere from less than a foot to as wide as 12 feet in some places. There are numerous areas that naturally create higher speeds, given the wide 20-foot, 5-foot median, some sections with wide shoulders, higher speed limits, and a lack of development. There are several T-style, skewed T, and right angle intersections. And the drainage system has issues. Many of the catch basins are in need of clearing. For vehicle traffic, vehicle speeds along the corridor can make entering and exiting the roadway challenging and dangerous for people driving cars, let alone pedestrians and people riding bikes. And the lack of separation from travel lanes makes walking feel dangerous. Much of the sidewalks along the corridor are right up against the travel lane. And sidewalks, where present, are mainly in poor condition, are not connected, and abruptly, and vary in width greatly. Very few segments of the sidewalks are ADA compliant and would be very difficult for those in wheelchairs or those pushing strollers. Bicycling on this roadway is dangerous and not recommended. And the lack of bus shelters and safe areas to wait for the bus make it difficult for those traveling by transit. Now I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Sarah Brown, so she can present some maps she has prepared for you all today to explain some of the existing conditions along the corridor. Sarah?
Thank you, Greg. This first map shows the intersections that Greg mentioned earlier in the presentation. So we have 5 stop-controlled intersections at Old Bedford Road, Borden Street, Forge Road, Highland Avenue, and American Legion Highway, which is also Route 177. There are signalized intersections. There are 4 of them, are Stanford Road, Gifford Road / Davis Road, Reed Road, and Crossroad. This next map shows the traffic volumes. In August, we put out traffic counters along the route for about a week at a time at each location. The first piece of data that we have here is the average daily travel for both the westbound and the eastbound combined. As you can see, Westport has about a total average daily travel between 10,000 and 12,000 cars per day. And as you go to Dartmouth, there's a higher level volume of traffic. This next map shows the 86th percentile speed. The 85th percentile is the speed at or below which 85% of all vehicles are observed to travel under free-flowing conditions past the traffic counter. As you notice, the highest speed traveled is underneath the Route 88 overpass in Westport, with the lower speeds in Dartmouth. This is because we put the traffic counters just before and just after the intersection, so people are still trying to get up to speed or they're slowing down for the intersection. This next poll is a question about speed. If you want slower traffic and have pedestrian and bicycle access and better bus service, or if you want faster traffic, less access, and significant separation between modes and no new building businesses. All right, it looks like most people want slower traffic, have better pedestrian and bicycle access, and more businesses and better bus stop accommodations. This next map shows the crash severity of crashes in Dartmouth, in the Dartmouth section of Route 6. Between 2017 and 2019, there were a total of 145 crashes. 57% were property damage only, 37% had injuries, 1% were fatal, and 3% were either not reported or unknown. Some notable crashes that we saw were that 2 involved pedestrians or bicyclists. 22% were single vehicle crashes. 8% of crashes were with a utility pole. 10 crashes were due to the road conditions, such as it was icy, wet, or snow on the roads. And 18 crashes were due to people following too closely. This next map shows the crash rate at the 3 intersections that are in Dartmouth, along with the posted speed limit. So the red are slower speeds and the greener faster speeds. The lowest crash rate happened at Route 177 and Route 6, with only 4 crashes for the 3 years, resulting in a lower crash rate. And the most crashes happened at Crossroad and Route 6, with 26 crashes, resulting in a 8.7 crash rate. These 3 intersections resulted in 50 crashes, and 14 of them were non-fatal, and no fatality crashes at these intersections. This next map is a little busy, but we wanted to show the bicycle, pedestrian, and transit networks all together. So the red and orange lines along Route 6 are the sidewalks and where they're located throughout the corridor. The dotted green line are proposed off-road separate use paths. The dotted blue lines are proposed on-road bicycle paths. And the solid blue line, just south of Route 6 in Dartmouth, is an existing on-road bicycle lane. So as you can see, there's no bicycle facilities present currently on Route 6. The purple line is the Serta intercity bus line that runs from New Bedford to Fall River. And then the dots are the 56 bus stops that Greg had pointed out earlier, with the one shelter being just to the east of Route 177 near Lincoln Park housing. On Monday this week, me and Greg and a couple other colleagues, we went out to Route 6 and we actually walked the sidewalks. So this map shows the sidewalk existing location and its existing conditions. So as you can see, there are some excellent condition sidewalks, but most of them are between fair and poor. A lot of the sidewalks are on the westbound side, with a few scattered throughout on the eastbound side. Most of the sidewalks range from 33 inches to 114 inches wide. This next map shows the land use for both Westport and Dartmouth. We did a quick analysis of the land use types that are along the corridor. So we looked at all the land use and all the parcels and properties that touch Route 6 and are within 200 feet of the corridor. So the top 3 land uses along Route 6 is 27% for institutional. This includes your town of Westport land, your town of Dartmouth land, the city of Fall River owns some land. There's some churches, and then the Westport Conservation. The Westport Land Conservation owns some land along this road. Then 21.9% is commercial properties, and that makes up 109 parcels along this route. Then the next highest is vacant, at 17.8%. So these three land use types make up 66% of the land use categories throughout the corridor. The rest, such as residential, mixed use, office, industrial, make up the other 33.3%.
Thank you, Sarah. Now let's recap some of what we've heard tonight so far. The study area starts at the Fall River City line in Westport and ends at Crossroad in Dartmouth. There are 9 intersections total along the corridor, 5 with traffic lights and 4 with stop signs. Much of the corridor is without sidewalks, and the segments of sidewalks that do exist are mostly in fair to poor condition. There are no bicycle facilities along the corridor at all, nor is it particularly safe for anyone to ride a bike along many stretches of the corridor. There are 56 public transit stops and only 1 bus shelter, many of which are precariously located. Vehicle speeds, whether at or below the speed limit, can make entering or exiting the roadway challenging and dangerous even for motorists, let alone anyone on foot or by bicycle. Now for the main event. Let's explore any current or potential issues and opportunities along the corridor. At this time, feel free to turn your videos back on because we're entering in the participatory portion of the night. Now, we're going to explore those current or potential issues and opportunities by discussing issues you might have or have witnessed while traveling along the corridor and some ideas you have for the future of the corridor. Then by utilizing our crowdsource map to place points along the corridor, we can highlight location-specific issues faced by motorists, pedestrians, people riding bicycles in transit, and overall transportation impacts. But let's start with collecting some issues and ideas. This exercise will work by you all raising your hands as you have an issue or an idea you would like to point out, and I'll place your suggestion accordingly. Feel free to chime in if you have encountered the same issue or have had the same idea as someone else. There's nothing wrong with saying the same thing twice. It just helps us to drive the point home. Once you've shared all of your ideas with us, we're going to use those ideas to create a survey to rank the importance of all the issues and ideas so we can make recommendations to the town based on your feedback. So I provided a couple simple examples just to kick things off. Under issues, I have traffic moves too fast. And under ideas, let's build better sidewalks. Now that being said, feel free to raise your hand at any time or type into the chat when you have an idea for the board, and one of us will call on you. So I see Joanne in the chat mentioned. I see a couple. Let me see, I need to expand this chat a little bit so I can read it all. All right, I see an issue must be crossing from east to west or trying to get back to a business on the other side. I see another one from Chris, wondering if there is a maintenance schedule for the drains along the corridor that could help keep the crash rate down. I will add, as much as I love reading in the chat and posting these, I also love to see your faces and hear your voices too. It's really great to come to these meetings so we at Serpent can get to know the residents in the community that we're serving. If you're just more comfortable posting in the chat, excellent. But if you want to share out loud, please don't hesitate. We really do want to hear from you and see you and meet you and say hello. I will keep adding these into the Jamboard though as we go. So I see another one that says, let's connect the sidewalks. And that's from Gail. I see Sandra says, I agree with both on the screen. Add bicycle and ped along the entire section. If at any point I type up one of these notes and you just want to clarify something that you said, because I might be typing it in wrong, or you just want to add a little bit of nuance to it, feel free to chime in.
Greg, I had a question for you when you have a second.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering about the ridership numbers. If we were able to ascertain how many people were actually on each stop.
I believe we have that data available to us. I don't have an answer offhand.
Okay.
Sarah or Lisa, do you happen to know some of those figures or have them quickly available to you by any chance? That is something that we can definitely follow up with, but I can't guarantee that we'll have it like right this second.
Because one thought that I had was if we were able to figure that out, and you see buses make stops with nobody on, and then you've got other stops that are pretty busy. They're maybe stopping near a residential area or an apartment complex or something like that. I'm just wondering if we were able to get those figures, figure out where the most active stops are, then maybe we could focus. I think someone had mentioned crossing from side to side. Maybe we could focus the access from north to south across Route 6 at the busiest stops. And instead of putting covers in more lighted safety areas for people to stand there and wait, maybe we just focus where the highest stop numbers are.
Thank you very much for that. I'm typing that up as we go. Those are wonderful points. I'm going to put that under ideas. Yeah, thank you again, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Agree, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
I just wanted to let you know that Joanne is also Leon, her husband. And I'm
Good to
going
meet you,
be a
Leon.
pest. Thank you. I'm going to be a pest because I came up from 10 years plus of North Carolina Department of Transportation roadway design group.
Sure.
And one of the big things I see here and it's come up recently within the last year or so, even more so, is people trying to walk across from hotels to possible restaurants and things of this nature on the other side. There's no safe way of doing that anywhere along those unless you're at the stoplight. And even there, that is a Reed Road is a perfect example of trying to get across. That would be a nightmare as well as Crossroad is. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in and let you know that I've been looking at that and hoping somebody would come up with these and look and see what's going on.
Thank you very much for that input. That was wonderful. Is that a good, is my paraphrasing good on there? There are no safe
Yes.
ways to cross from the hotels to the restaurants and other businesses?
That is true. And what I'm thinking is the fact that hopefully, and I say this tongue in cheek, we've been around this area for about, off and on for about 15 years, plus or minus. And I'm hoping that we see more business from Crossroads going down toward Westboro and all of that, Westport rather, and all that area through here. On both sides of the road, I see there's one big thing, a big housing development now down there. We almost moved in there, in fact, 4 years when we come up here. But if that businesses do increase, we may run into even more problems with trying to get across the street.
Hi, Gregory. This is Sandra from the South Coast Bikeway Alliance.
Hi, Sandra, how are you?
Hi, great, thanks. I'm really enjoying hearing all the comments. I totally agree with the last speaker. The one fatality that we had recently was a pedestrian crossing near the hotels in Dartmouth.
Ouch.
Probably just finished shopping at Walmart. We're working towards getting safe bicycle pedestrian connection between New Bedford and Fall River, and Route 6 was part of the study. One area that needs looking at is the Route 6 crossing at White's, which is in the study section. And there is an existing bike path on the South Watuppa in Fall River, and we hope that that will be continued into Westport, and a safe crossing at White's would be ideal. White's has 2 hotels now. There are people who wish to ride bikes or walk and explore the area, and any effort to improve bike and pedestrian access along the corridor would be much appreciated.
Thank you for that input, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Greg, a question to kind of piggyback on what Sandra had just mentioned.
Sure thing.
The use path that was mentioned on one of the, that was shown on one of the maps, that's north of, let's see, I think it was it north of 195? Or maybe that was Route 6. Maybe it was north of Route 6. It almost seemed like a railroad bed or something. Yeah, so it's north of 195.
This green line here.
Right.
Yeah, there is an old rail line there, and you'll notice that it's a proposed off-road.
Okay, so it's proposed. It's not usable right now.
Correct.
Well, is it used by industry, by commercial interest at all, or is it utilities? Or?
A combination. It's the length of it is public and private land.
That is also part of the South Coast Bikeway study being done by Circuit.
Yes, it is.
And it was found to be too costly, and the fact that it's still in use is an obstacle. Massachusetts does allow for bike trails alongside active rails. However, the conditions there with river crossings and the narrow land and wetlands would not be cost effective.
Okay.
We are looking at a northern route, which is further north from there.
Hey, Greg, this is Kevin Estes. I just
Hi there,
wanted
Kevin.
to, how are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thanks. I had a question. I sit on the planning board for Dartmouth, and the question that I wanted to ask was, when we talk about crossings, what kind of crossings are preferred for the pedestrians as well as bikers? Are we talking about bridge? Are we talking about stop light, or just more stop lights? Or what would make the most sense, or what are some ideas that people have that they would like to see?
Would you like to put that question to the rest of the participants here, Kevin, or would you like Serpent
Yeah.
to answer that question?
Both.
Well, I'd love to hear from some of the folks participating tonight first before we chime in with our opinions, of which you can be assured we have some.
Well, there are safer crossing designs that we could use that have bump outs to make it the pedestrian more protected at the intersection. They're actually doing one on Sconticut Neck Road in Fairhaven. They've done a temporary situation there where they've reduced the lane to 1 lane because it's a bike crossing, so that cars do not pass on the right when someone's allowing the bicyclist to cross. But they're going to add bump outs for that same purpose, to be more permanent. And I've seen recent studies, actually it was a Los Angeles study, but they made a boulevard much more user-friendly. They added trees for shade, so you don't necessarily have to build kiosks. You can just increase your shade from trees. Better sidewalks, better crossings, color the pavement so that people know that there's a crossing. There's a lot of things that can be done to make it safe and still attractive and keep traffic moving.
Gregory and Kevin? This is Leon. Okay, to go ahead.
Absolutely, Leon.
Okay. I was very impressed with one of the crossings but it's in the Westport area down near the post office. The way that crossing works is if we have people that need to cross, they will, in essence, trigger the stoplight. That area, that would work. The area down there, though, is, and I may say this, the speed down there is a lot less than what it would be if we tried to put something like that in where the hotels are, but we'd have to I'd see a reduction of speed through there in order to be able to, and that may help with safety as well.
Absolutely.
There is
How is
a,
that triggered? Is it?
Sorry?
How is the crossing triggered? Is it a button on the?
Yes, it's triggered by the user walking up to a pole and pushing a button saying, I need to cross at that particular point in time. Now, again, you're going to have some traffic issues with that when that happens. But if we can get the speeds down where they're not doing 1665 through that area, we might be able to, that may help with safety as well as getting the people. And we may, depending on where other businesses come in, that may be the only way, other than, as you said, Kevin, digging a hole underneath the road or putting a bridge over the top of it to get the people across. That's just a thought, and I really like that, the way that was set up.
there is a crossing just into Fall River that is a pedestrian and bike crossing. Gregory can probably pinpoint it a little better, but it's Route 6 and maybe
Brighton Ave.
Brighton Ave, thank you. That one seems to work pretty well. And if you're thinking of bridges, the town of Dennis just put a nice one in over the highway that goes along there with a bike path. And it goes from one shopping center to the next. So it's parking for the bicycles, and it was very busy.
Absolutely. So Lisa and Elizabeth, I see you both have your hands up. I'm gonna call on you both in just a moment. One thing I'd just like to point out is that as I heard some comments being made, and some of my thoughts on this are that I think that the solutions that could be implemented in terms of crossing all depend on the future layout of the lanes. If the lanes are to remain 2 in either direction, so 4 total with a really wide median, that the solution to that would probably look very different than, say, if the lanes were reduced down to 1 in either direction with a more narrow median. because you have to think about the difference in crossing distance for the pedestrian. It's a difference between, 65 feet of crossing or more in some places, including the shoulders, or say 30 or between 20 and 30 feet, depending on whether or not there's 2 lanes to 4 lanes with a huge median and big shoulders. And those can be, as like Sandy said, simple bump outs in concert with crosswalks. It could be signalized crossing, as Leon pointed out. There are a ton of solutions for sure. And so I'm really encouraged by the conversation that's been had so far. And so Lisa had her hand up, and then Elizabeth. So Lisa, go ahead.
I'll let Elizabeth go first. Go ahead.
Okay, Elizabeth, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm a town meeting member for Precinct 2. I live off of Reed Road. I'm loving all of the feedback. I think, probably a lot of us are in a rock and a hard place because I don't know that adding full-blown traffic lights is something people want to see. And I think that could potentially hinder the traffic situation along Reed Road. But I love Leon's idea about the kind of prompted signals. And I think that especially in between Reed Road and Crossroad, those would be really successful there. I do think perhaps there should be a reduction of the speed limit, but you could get away with not having to lower it too drastically, I think, with some of those prompted lights for pedestrians to cross. And another idea that I had was also just kind of curious about, I agree, I would love to see more businesses north of Reed Road heading towards Fall River. But additionally, I think, it'd be worthwhile to investigate vacant property for open space, because I think it would cultivate more of an environment for bikers and walkers, which would then necessitate the need for more of an appropriate space for them to be able to travel back and forth.
Elizabeth, would you mind elaborating on how you mean open space and what kind of potential uses you're envisioning for open space?
Could be mini parks. I wouldn't, maybe a place that you could take your dog, something kind of informal. Some residents may be familiar with the little open space that is adjacent to Midas at the dreaded intersection of Fonts Corner Road and Route 6. It's right by a river. And there is a little area that you can kind of go in there. You can walk, you can take pictures. I kind of wonder what the opinion of everybody would be if, a couple of those places were scattered around, just to make the area a bit more friendly, and provide incentives for people to, walk and feel more comfortable along Route 6.
Yeah, places to go, right? Places to enjoy as pedestrians and bicyclists, and even someone just wanting to pull off and enjoy nature. That sounds wonderful. Yeah.
I am also a town meeting member, Precinct 2. Nice to see you, Elizabeth.
Wondering what the P2 stood for. We're making guesses before we let everybody in.
Well, that was Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, I'm very much in favor of the pocket parks. I have also attended the Dartmouth Master Plan meetings, and there was a lot of emphasis on going more towards a village setup along Route 6, creating more of a village appeal like we used to have. So more where you can live where you shop, and then you can go to a green space too. I mean, it would be ideal. People were concerned about those just moving to Dartmouth or just moving out of their parents' home in Dartmouth and needing an affordable place to live, and those at the other end of life and wanting a smaller piece of property or a rental and still be able to walk and visit shops by walking or biking. So if we could put pocket parks along Route 6 as well for the adjacent neighborhoods to enjoy, that would be wonderful.
Thanks for that, Sandy. And so, Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit about that signal that's in Westport.
Please do.
Near the post office, actually. I've been in that area and I've seen pedestrians not use the signal, right? They're 50 feet away and they will not walk to the crossing. So I think one important thing is, you know, when we figure out like where people are trying to cross to accommodate the most people that we can, but also we need to educate people that they need to go to the crosswalks for safe crossing. You know, they can't just be crossing anywhere, particularly around, you know, Route 6. It's 4 lanes of traffic. And they're not, even though we design it to protect them, they're still not using them.
May I be just a bit grouchy in the picture here and say that we also need to teach the drivers how to use those median turn areas between Reed Road and Crossroad. I've seen more instances there of people who could end up in a world of trouble. Those crossings are just big enough for a small car. If you put a big truck in there, the people coming down behind them really don't know what to do with it, and the people who are trying to turn don't know what to do with it. And no disrespect to anyone, but it's an interesting job. We live basically right across one of them, so it's an interesting job to get from one side of the street to the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. And from the chat, I saw change the yield sign at Old Westport Road and Route 6 to a light. Thank you for that. I think that was Carol. Yes. I think we had Kevin, you had your hand up?
Yes. This is a little bit of a topic change. I don't know if we're ready to change off of just the safety and crossing yet.
Let's hear it. We can always revisit.
All right. You know, this is just my impression of having driven around a lot, different states, different towns. The Route 6 is not a pretty place. And I was wondering what people would like to see if just to dress it up. I mean, in terms of yeah, a lot of the properties along that are private enterprises, either residential or commercial. But at the end of the day, you know, picking them up would be nice. But would people? Is there a reason that we can't get some trees planted in the middle that could serve a lot of different positive functions? But are there any negative drawbacks to getting some landscaping other than maintenance and cost?
I think that's a great question. Again, I would at least my initial thought is that would all depend on the exact future layout. I would hate to see trees go into, say, the median and then have like some of the medians reduced or removed, or landscaping along the side, and then realizing that like sidewalks are going to get bigger, sidewalks are going to get put in, so they need to be removed and things like that. So, but that's not to say that those things shouldn't happen, but I think they need to be a part of a pretty comprehensive plan on top of like creating all of these, you know, if we're going to go the route of creating more connections and more bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and making it easier for transit riders and opening the doors to more local businesses opening up along the corridor, then those points that you just brought up actually absolutely need to be a part of that conversation as well, because I mean, everyone wants a place that they can feel good about and feel proud about. And a part of that is dressing it up, whether it be with trees or beautiful signage. It's about, you know, saying who we are, who is Dartmouth and who is Westport, and how can we show that by how we take care of our major state road that moves through our community.
So who has dominion over the Route 6 in the area that we're talking about, in the median at least? Is that the state of Mass or Commonwealth, or?
Yes, it is. So essentially the chain of events would need to be the communities need to rally around some ideas and push MassDOT to make certain decisions and to provide, provide those ideas to MassDOT for those changes to be had. But I think MassDOT's really waiting on and wanting the towns to push for their ideas and push their values to the forefront of the conversation before they were to make any substantial investment or push for those kind of changes, because they would hate, I don't think that they want to do something in isolation without the town. And that's kind of why we're here. We're here to make sure that your ideas get that far.
So are you guys taking this back to MassDOT then?
Yes, this will be made publicly available for all town representatives, the general public, and Mass DOT. It would be the towns themselves, I think, that would really need to be taking the plan and putting it on MassDOT's table, though, and saying, hey, like, this is a part of what we want our future to look like.
Okay, so you guys don't have a direct connection to Mass. This is more providing the towns the opinions that they can package up and document and reference when we approach MassDOT.
More or less, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, I see Gail, and I think we got about 4 more minutes for this exercise, and I want to switch to that map so that we can get really hyper specific and hone in on certain sites along the corridor, and we can zoom in and add points on the map like I had kind of shown earlier. So Gail, go ahead, and then we'll call on a couple more people over the next couple of minutes.
It's very quick. It's a hop on Joanne's husband's thought about the turnarounds in Route 6.
Sure.
He was talking about how to educate the people on, what side they should be on for their site and safety wise, but also talking about safety. Now I drive down Route 6 and I have night blindness. And it's hard to see without a reflector where that turnaround is. And I thought maybe there could be something for us who are blind at night to be able to see it may be helpful. And that's it.
It's a wonderful point. Thank you very
Gail,
much.
I'm
Gail.
not blind and I have a hard time seeing those median openings.
Here, here.
I have a hard time seeing them during the day.
I mean, the moon out night, you can see fine, but when it's not out, it's hard to see.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Agree.
Gregory, if I may just throw a little piece in.
Absolutely.
Based on what I know with the people that I worked with in North Carolina, since that is a major state road, it has over the last few years, there's been some major changes on what your medians have to look like and things of this nature. And I suspect if MassDOT does come through and redo that whole section, that there'd be some major changes on things like speed limit signs in the middle, reflectors as to where to turn, that type of thing. I can't guarantee that without talking to MassDOT directly, but I know in North Carolina, they were hitting us hard with that type of thing.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you for that input, Leon. So we got about 2 minutes here, or 1 minute. The clock just changed. If anybody else has another quick point or two that we'd like to throw up on here, I'd be happy to do so. But in a minute, we are going to transition to the map.
Gregory, did you get the comments about the pavement and the pavement markings?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't think I did. Would I be able to get that reiterated for me and paraphrase so I can type it up?
Let's see.
Was it in the chat?
The chat, yeah. Roadway needs to be repaved soon and lanes painted.
Thank you for that. Oh, me too. There we go. Awesome. Well, these are a lot of wonderful ideas. and we're gonna take them to heart, and they're gonna, in conjunction with other ideas that we get from Westport, we're gonna put them all together and create some kind of a ranking exercise for the public to vote and rank on them over the course of the study. So that way, your ideas and the issues that you have with the corridor can be heard by your fellow neighbors, colleagues, and public representatives, and they can chime in and agree and disagree, and we can have a lot of fun with it. So thank you all for this input. It was really awesome. Let me just, I got to do a little bit of clicking around here. Some of the things have opened up on my screen. All right. So for this exercise, same as before, you can raise your hand and then we'll call on you and we can place a specific pin on the map for you, or you can follow the link at the beginning of the chat and you can place pins on this map at any time you'd like as well, either now during this meeting or afterwards. If you do place one on the map for yourself, we would still love it if you either put a little comment about it in the chat that you did so, or raise your hand and tell us about it. So that way we could, it can be a topic of discussion and it might spur ideas in other folks. So on the note of that, let me just very quickly kind of give you a little tour of this map. There are 5 different pins that we can put, or there are 5 different maps. There's a traveling by car map, there's a traveling by foot map, traveling by bicycle map, traveling by transit map, and transportation impacts. And on each of these, we can leave a comment. These are all comments that are already placed on the map for traveling by car. So once you raise your hand, we can zoom in, we can move around. We are, of course, here to primarily talk about the Dartmouth section. So I would say prioritize those, but I don't think we'll shy away necessarily from a Westport comment either. We are looking at the whole corridor for our study, not just Dartmouth, but I know that the Dartmouth section may be more pertinent and important to you folks. So if we could mostly focus on that, that'd be great. But I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to collect another point as well. But again, feel free to add another point in after the fact on your own accord as well, if you follow the link in the chat, or go to our website and get the link as well if you lose it in the chat afterwards. Kevin.
Are we specifically stopping for this part at Crossroad, or are we continuing east on Route 6?
So the corridor ends at Crossroad as far as this study is concerned.
Okay.
So we would have to limit our
I may have missed
comments
this
to
at the
that.
beginning, but who's sponsoring the study for Serpent?
What do you mean who called for it?
Yeah,
the towns of Dartmouth and Westport.
both. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
If I could ask a question, there was a comment that was posted by Christopher O'Neill in reference to the drains along the corridor and keeping the crash rate down. I'm just curious if you could elaborate a little more on your experience with that, since you made the comment. Do you have experience with that? Is there puddling along the corridor, and where would that be?
Well, it just came to mind after seeing the picture that was posted. When the drains get blocked, they obviously pool up. And in the wintertime in that area, you may not see it in time. So I'm in the insurance business and on the planning board also with Kevin in Dartmouth. So I tend to notice the pooling on the sides of the road because we get a lot of reports in the wintertime for hydroplaning. That can lead to just about anything. So having some type of maintenance program on those, even if it's once a month to run by, can have an impact.
We'll take a look at the crash data specifically for that to maybe pinpoint some locations and highlight those.
Greg, there's one other thing when I think of safety and traveling by car.
Sure.
If you go further east in front of the, when you're going to take the Hathaway Road exit off of Route 6 near the Burger King down in that area, past Crossroad, obviously, there's a little bump in that it's a queue for maybe 4 cars if they want to take a left across the other 2 lanes going west. I don't see that in this corridor. I may be wrong, but the 2
You
or
mean
3
that,
that
that
I
kind
moved-
of a queue, you're saying, like that
Yes,
kind of,
exactly, yeah. So if you want to turn right now, and there's one more car in back of you that wants to do the same, you're going to form a queue in a passing lane. And that is bad news.
So you, to paraphrase, there's not enough room for more than 1 car to form a line in the turning lanes.
Exactly. And if I'm sure everyone here has probably had to make one of those turns. When you get involved in that turn, you pull your car up as close to that westbound lane as you can if you're trying to take, the left and go west. So you don't get rear-ended. So if people stopped abruptly because someone didn't use a blinker, or there's no queue there. So you get a lot of rear-enders, and I would be surprised if some of the crash data didn't come back and say, the rear-enders are going to be at some of those intersections. So I think if, you look at the development, like we said before, you look at the traffic patterns, the pedestrian traffic, the transit numbers, and you try and pinpoint the most active areas, I think having some of those turnarounds there would be great.
Could that be accomplished by reducing the median, Gregory?
Those medians are pretty thick. I would be surprised if you couldn't do it that way, because that median on further down is a lot thinner than the ones out when you're going out toward Westport.
You'd cut into the median and make that storage lane for the turn. The thing is, Route 6 was designed so long ago that if it was redesigned, as was previously stated, it would be a complete makeover. You'd have your turn lanes, you'd have your bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. So once, Route 6 at some point becomes a project and gets rebuilt, it will look completely different and be a lot safer.
Right.
The median was a trolley line many years ago. Route 6 is
I
also,
actually didn't know that.
That's
yes, it
true.
was.
Yeah.
And according to the town of Dartmouth, that there's actually water lines under there now that may not be used anymore. But there is another Route 6 study for a road diet from Route 240 east to Wareham, and they're considering reducing the number of lanes and then putting in a turn lane. I know they have one section with turn lanes in Mattapoisett on Route 6.
You're talking
That could
about the center turn lane, right?
Yeah, like a shared turn lane, either direction, or
Yep.
you could reduce to 1 lane and then have a queue to turn. But if we used more of the median, reduce the median, we could probably still get the queue that Christopher was speaking of. Because
I think
yes,
I know which ones you're talking about, Sandra. The ones just past before North Street in Mattapoisett, but it's just all paint. So it
Yeah,
directs you, right?
Right, it's in between there are only 2 traffic lights. And, but I know they're thinking of doing some kind of road diet, especially east of there, because the speed there is high and the pedestrian and bike accommodations are, well, bike is nothing, but pedestrian is intermittent like we have in Dartmouth.
Steve, I saw that your hand went up and went back down. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss something you wanted to add to the conversation.
No, I'm good. When he was talking about the Hathaway Road intersection, I was going to mention that's in the queue for redesign.
Ah,
I thought Lisa was going to mention it. No problem.
thanks, Steve.
Hathaway Road, I understand, is being put on the back burner, and that we're going to get a different solution from Mass DOT in the short term.
It's the relocation of Tucker Road has been put on the back burner, but they're still going to make improvements there.
Right.
The next few years, it's being redesigned right now. But to that point, Steve, the queuing there in that turn, that's a whole different animal. There's just way too much traffic in that area. And the traffic signals need to be coordinated to make it flow better.
Yeah, absolutely. I just didn't know if they were aware that it was in there. It's been in there for years, but nobody keep following through in the Dartmouth end.
If I may.
Yeah, please do. And then I see Elizabeth's hand is up, so that'll be the order we go in.
I apologize. I couldn't find the hand up routine on ours here, so
That's
I
okay.
apologize. Usually there's a short 5-year and a 10-year plan, 5, 10, and 20-year plans out there somewhere under Mass Dot that look at the different sections of road and what they're planning on doing with them. Does anyone know if the same is true here as we had in North Carolina? We were required to update those every year, basically, to see what was already in the works and what we could add to it. I was just wondering if there were any plans out there we could get to look at. I don't know if anybody would know, even among the
I don't know how.
Cool.
If I could, Gregory, I don't know how far we want to go off topic explaining SERPED, and Dartmouth has representatives and we plan projects years out. I don't know if that's on the topic or not.
If you had a concise way to answer the question, I'd welcome it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just so he knows, Dartmouth is represented with SERPED. SERPED does the transportation in the area, and we plan for. I'm a Westport representative. I'm a Westport selectman, and there's several groups. There's a joint transportation. There's SEMPO, which is regional, and we all get together and discuss projects for like 5, 10, 20 years out. You know, we all discuss where the funds in the region should go. Like that's why I knew about Tucker Road and whatnot, and we had projects in Westport. So SERPED does a lot with that. They're very active. They're one of the top rated in the state.
Great, thank you. I wasn't trying to throw rocks at anybody. I was just trying to figure out if those things were available.
No problem at all, Leon. We're all here to learn today.
I just wanted to add on to that a little bit. Dartmouth is about to finish up the master plan, and SERPED is helping with the master plan. And there's a lot of transportation is obviously a big part of that.
Definitely, and you can find that information as well on our website through our comprehensive planning department. Thank you for that clarification, both Steve and Kevin. Couldn't have said it better myself. Elizabeth.
Hi. Just to capitalize on what everybody else was just saying too, that information can be found on engagedartmouth.org, which is a new website that the town has released. It has the entire master plan posted to the website if anybody wants to take a peruse at it. It's pretty cool. But also just circling back to kind of the map here, Greg, what are you looking for us to pin? Are you looking for us to pin points of areas that need attention in terms of, you know, roadway improvements, or are you just kind of looking for information at this point?
Precisely. I mean, it could be, oh, I know of this specific corner that I have a really hard time seeing because this telephone pole is in my way, or, oh, like I went to cross over here and there's no crosswalk for a half a mile, or
Gotcha.
so there's no sidewalk here in front of my home. Like literally anything to do with a transportation issue along the corridor that is site specific that we can drop a point on. That's kind of what we're looking for. So I can give an example of that as well if that helps. I can illustrate that with a couple of the points here. Like this one is just speed limit is too high for this commercial and residential area, and that's located right here.
Yeah. My comment would be that from Reed Road to Crossroad, in my observation, seems to be the area where the most attention should be focused on pedestrian crossings, if I'm talking in regards to the entire corridor. So I don't know if you just want to put a general pin, but I think we could all agree that that seems to be the problematic area with regards to at least pedestrian crossing.
Sure. Anywhere in particular, I could just throw it smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well,
Okay.
Elizabeth, just to add to that comment, you're right. And there's probably about 200 units coming online just to the left of, well, you're not going to see my mouse here, but let's see. Right across from East Quarry Street.
Yep.
So Greg, if you zoom in,
Sorry. Let me just. Okay, all right, sweet. I can move both at the same time. This is great. So you said, I'm sorry, I heard
you're
East
right, you
Quarry
were
Street.
just over it. You were just right on it. Yeah, left a little bit further left
Right there.
and down. Those two specks right there below you, below the mouse. Yeah, that's the area of a potential housing development right now that may bring on 200 to 200 plus units. So
Wow.
when you talk about pedestrian traffic, you're going to have to
Absolutely.
do
Absolutely.
something in there.
You know, I think it's worth noting to the college community. I find it odd sometimes that I don't see a lot of younger pedestrians that seem to be coming from UMass Dartmouth. And I wonder if somehow we could create that Crossroad intersection to be more conducive to them feeling comfortable to also cross over from the university on, I think that's Old County Road there, or Old Country Road. And then, going along Crossroad over to that area and then being able to access those businesses is something to consider for the future too.
If I may add, this is Sandra again. There are bike lanes on Crossroad, and there are plans to realign the entrance for UMass Dartmouth so that it is opposite Crossroad rather than where it is now, to make it safer. So once they get to Route 6, it would be nice if they could continue on their bicycle, either to their residence off of Route 6 or to the shopping and medical facilities on the other side.
Yeah, you make a valid point there. There are a lot of college students that do rent a lot of those houses along Route 6. So that sounds totally intuitive.
I do see some on Old Westport Road, which is just out of the study area, but they do go that way as well. They may have jobs on Fons Corner Road. That's the shortest path. There's also a UMass building in Westport along the South Watepa. So if they could get safely between the university and the other location, the satellite location, by bicycle or bus on that Route 6 corridor where it was more attractive and readily available to bus that way, that would certainly help.
Sandra, were you referencing over here along Route 6 by the South Watepa?
Yeah, right in the green section, I would say that's completed. There's a bike path behind it near Martine
yeah.
Street. Yeah, there's a UMass building in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's right near that Martine, or the one a little bit further to your left, the bigger building there.
So one of these buildings.
Yeah.
I actually can't recall at this moment.
It might be where you are, Gregory, maybe just a little bit. Nope, to the right, I think. Yeah, I think that might be the
I
one.
think right there, the technology center, I think it is,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's you. Okay, yeah. Now that you say technology center, I've definitely seen that signage.
Yeah, the South Coast Bikeway has mentioned that more than once, or discussed it more than once, to make it possible for the UMass students to get to the various campuses, the law school on Fons Corner Road, and then the art building downtown New Bedford, and there's also one in South End of New Bedford.
Yeah, the Star Store. You know, that brings up an even bigger picture. With I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with some of the grants that we've received, I believe federally, for the development of the South Coast to be sort of this sustainable wind farm, solar power, SMAST, UMass Dartmouth, you know, and a lot of these kind of satellite outlets around our area that are kind of going to be a hub for a lot of that practice. And so, you know, especially with consideration of the rail coming into New Bedford, I think there's hopefully going to be an influx of people coming into the area, you know, down the road. And so for us to become a bit more accessible for that movement, I think is very behooving.
Thank you for that input. So I don't want to keep everyone too long. We have a couple more slides after the activities. I really appreciate all the conversation. This is spurt. We've collected a lot of valuable information. I'd say we can give this activity or even items for the Jam board, honestly, at this point, another 3 or 4 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up the last couple of slides and conclude our workshop tonight. It's close to 8 p.m. sharp as we can. That being said, if nobody has any other further points or otherwise, that's okay as well, but we'll give you guys a couple more minutes to chime on in.
Yeah, Greg, I would just be really interested to see, because this came up in the master planning charrette that was done on transportation, on the you know, the bus stops and what the ridership looked like. And now, you know, say you have that 200 unit building coming on. I mean, you obviously have to have someone realign those. And now, you know, maybe there is a mini park across the street that the town can get involved in, a destination with a pedestrian controlled stop light instead of a, you know, a red, green, and yellow light, but a pedestrian controlled light. There's some land across the street there that I don't know what's going on with it, but you get a lot of potential in that area, you know, and if that's a lot of bodies to put in that particular area, if we can get the turnarounds done and have DOT really take a hard look at that when that development comes online, to protect those people and really make that, you know, it might be the foundation. It might be that, you know, in a retail situation, you get that that one big retail operator and the rest of them follow. So maybe that's the catalyst, you know, something like that to get that area going. Increase the property values and maybe get some more investment in that area.
Gregory, is it possible for you to show us that section with the available lands that are not developed yet, so we can see what the potential is for the pocket parks?
With the map that I have open right now, I don't know what kind of, I don't think I have like a lot of layers available to me. So I wouldn't be able to like pull up satellite imagery with this.
The zoning map that
Yeah, like a map geo.
Sarah
or
had
something.
up before, Gregory. Can you shift?
Yeah,
it?
one of the prior maps from the presentation even.
Yep, the one
Sure,
Sarah
let's,
had up.
yeah, let's check that out. I
Yeah.
can't really zoom in too well. I think I can a little bit. Here we go. I can move around. Unfortunately, a lot of the roads, except for the primary ones, aren't labeled, so.
And it was gray, correct?
What was gray? The
The
area
open
in question?
space, the open undeveloped was gray.
Vacant is gray, open space is green. And
Okay,
no-
vacant is what I want.
Yep. So vacant is gray currently. And so you can see that there are some gray areas along on this side. I don't know which
By
one.
vacant, you mean undeveloped, right?
Yes, because there
Yes.
were buildings that are closed up, but those are considered developed.
I don't know if this is out of the scope, but do you know who owns those two large green protected properties, open space?
These two?
The town may be involved in a couple of
Yeah,
those.
that's town-owned property. That one there, those two to the right of Reed Road, I believe actually, well, that's actually pretty south. I'm not certain. I can't confirm that, but I know DNRT does have some stake close to there. And then I believe the property closest to Route 6 intersection with Reed Road is town-owned property.
Is that like empty restaurant ever going to be developed?
There are plans, yeah.
Okay. Same use?
I don't know at this point.
Are you referring to the steakhouse?
Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
I heard there's plans too. I don't know what though.
So 42.
So
No, they're private. Those lots are privately owned. Just looking at the one to the right of North Quarry Street, privately owned. Privately owned, same owner. Grossman Companies out of Quincy owns the big one directly across the street. The other big ones on the side are privately owned also.
thanks for that follow-up, Chris.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep you guys any later than 8. Although this conversation is pretty awesome. We got a lot of really wonderful input from all of you. Again, I just want to strongly encourage you all to interact with that map. The link is in the chat. It's on the website. Any ideas come to your mind after this, you'll also be able to email one of us as well. My email will be on the final slide of the presentation here. As far as next steps are concerned, we will be holding a public meeting for the residents and officials of Westport on next Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. And sometime in November, we are actually also going to be holding a second Dartmouth public meeting. That way we can ensure that other Dartmouth town officials can attend, as there was a scheduling conflict this evening, preventing a lot of folks from being in attendance for tonight's meeting. And once these public workshops wrap up, that's going to conclude phase 1 of our study. During phase 2, we are going to conduct all of our analysis for the study, hold our second round of stakeholder meetings, develop recommendations based on all of the analysis and community input, hold a second round of public workshops, and then compile everything we have learned and developed into a final report to share with the general public and town officials in both Westport and Dartmouth. And that concludes our meeting tonight. Thank you again for taking part in the study with us. We're looking forward to providing you with updates and products along the way. Please be sure to visit the study's webpage, and please do not hesitate to contact me via email at any time regarding the study. Again, thank you all so much, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, Greg. Nice job.
Great.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Bye,
it.
everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care now. Boom. All right, let's